Hello, I'm Max Barrows. I work for Green Mountain Self Advocates in Vermont. We are a disability rights organization. Our purpose is advocating for equal opportunities in all aspects of life for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. In 2019, in the spirit of true inclusion, we worked with the Vermont Department of Health to make the Diabetes Self-Management Program workshops more accessible to people with disabilities. These workshops are taught for free all over Vermont. Our goal is for these workshops to be understood by people with disabilities. In this webinar, I am presenting a very brief overview of the many suggestions we provided in our 20-page accessibility guidelines for the diabetes self-management workshops. These guidelines are available by contacting your regional coordinator or the Vermont Department of Health. The guidelines we wrote include a plain language glossary. We cited curriculum words that may be difficult for some people to understand, and we provided an alternative explanation. We had a focus group of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities review these plain language definitions. The guidelines also contain a review of each lesson. We cited activities that require modification and provided suggestions on how to make the sessions more cognitively accessible. Let's start out with a plain language glossary. Here are 3 examples of plain language definitions of terms used in the diabetes self-management program. The plain language glossary can be used by the participants in class or at home when preparing for class or completing homework. Instructors may also want to refer to the glossary during their class. The authors of this curriculum often suggest that facilitators should use their own words when teaching. The plain language glossary can be a useful resource. Before class begins. During the registration process, ask each participant if they need any support. Some people may be reluctant to say they need help understanding information. We suggest saying that in the past, other people who have taken this course have used a variety of strategies to ensure their success. A basic form listing accommodations may include for someone who is deaf and uses a sign language interpreter, a note taker, large print or a flash drive containing printed materials, wheelchair access, reserved seating in the front of the class for people who have difficulty hearing, receive a list of discussion questions before each class to better prepare, handouts of information listed on flip charts, assistance with completing written assignments, ask if they will have an assistant with them or a service animal, and much more. If assistance is needed, make a plan for getting support during class and outside of class time. Decide who will assist them to review important information, complete homework, and prepare for the next class. Remember to presume competence. Do not make assumptions about what a person can or cannot do. The person needs to be making the final decisions about who will support them and how support is provided. Mention that they can always ask for assistance anytime. Lectures and charts. Most of the information taught is presented as a lecture or discussion. This style of teaching may be overwhelming for individuals who are visual learners and for those who need extra time to process information. Use different modes of teaching will be more engaging, or using different modes will be more engaging. Mix it up with small group discussions, role plays, Q&A exchanges, hands-on activities, demonstrate strategies, create handouts that summarize key points, and etc. We have provided links to several videos that may help participants understand the concepts you are teaching. The charts used to teach would be more accessible if they had pictures or icons paired with the terms. For the end of the session, there are many charts hung around the room. This could be distracting. I appreciate the low-tech approach to teaching. However, if you used a PowerPoint, it would make it easier to add visuals. While teaching, get in the habit of identifying which comments are essential and need to be remembered. It can decrease a person's level of anxiety when you are clear about what is need to know information versus what is nice to know information. Some of the sessions have a lot of information. As you get to know the participants, you will be able to stress which objectives individuals should concentrate on. Encourage participation. It may be hard for people to quickly come up with answers to even basic questions. So consider giving the participants the discussion questions before the class to have more time to think about their answers. Encourage participants to keep a notebook with all the handouts and logs. This can make it easier for them to refer to data and information throughout the class. Encourage discussions. We have found that talking about feelings is hard. Having a visual chart with emotions will assist participants. Make sure you use emoji graphics or pictures of adults. Please do not use pictures of children. Some discussions may trigger a person to disclose personal information about being abused or trying to harm themselves. So if you are a mandated reporter, be sure participants know this. I want to share some background information. Mental distress, such as depression or anxiety, is a common concern for people with disabilities. Unfortunately, people with disabilities are also less likely to report receiving adequate social and emotional support. Both men and women with disabilities are 3 times more likely to be victims of violent crimes. The rates are even higher for women with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Now let's go to breaks. Consider taking several short breaks instead of one long break. This often helps to keep participants more engaged. If you decide to stay with a long break, give a prompt 5 minutes. Give a prompt 5 minutes before the break ends, or have people work with a partner to remind each other to return on time. Action plans. The sample action plans created by the leaders will make this activity doable. This activity will be easier if the participants have a template or form to follow. For some participants, the journal used in the Prevent T2 program may be easier to use. Take care to use plain language. Use examples that are affordable and obtainable by most participants. Consistent vocabulary. It is important to keep vocabulary consistent. In session 5, There is a discussion about negative and positive thoughts. Then chart 10 is introduced, and the words self-defeating and irrational beliefs. It would be useful to define these new vocabulary words. Clarify how these words relate to the discussion about negative and positive thoughts. Again, we have included a plain language glossary to assist when introducing new vocabulary. Activities. It is important to briefly describe what a person will do during each activity. It is important for people to know what is expected. For example, some people who have a history of trauma will not feel comfortable closing their eyes. Participants should have the option of sitting in their chair during the activity. And do not be surprised if some people are not able to do this activity. Some people with autism or those with other types of movement disabilities may have a hard time following directions and moving their bodies accordingly. The activity, positive thinking mantra, may need more detailed explanation. It will be helpful to model using a mantra. Be sure to have them demonstrate using a mantra. While activities in general are great, please note that some autistic participants may be uncomfortable saying how they feel, being touched, and/or making eye contact. Group work is a great way to include people. Do pay attention to be sure one person isn't doing all the work. During activities and discussion, it may be hard for people to quickly come up with answers to even basic questions. Consider giving the participants the questions before the class to have more time to think about their answers. Thank you for reviewing this webinar. This was just a quick introduction to a few of the suggestions we have on how to make diabetes self-management workshops more cognitively accessible. Our complete set of guidelines with page-by-page suggestions are available from your regional coordinator. Good luck teaching, and thanks for all you are doing to include people with disabilities in your class.